All right. So tomorrow, you're in lab, you're going to be using the Raspberry Pi. And this is all brand new for many of you. So we're going to spend a kind of a low-key night tonight just on the Raspberry Pi. We are going to give you an introduction of how to troubleshoot it. And Mr. Maurer is going to help you tomorrow with that as well. And then we're also going to go on Adafruit and look at different Raspberry Pi projects that you can do down the road. Okay? Any questions? All right. First of all, this is a Raspberry Pi. Now let me give you the story behind a Raspberry Pi. This computer right there, it's the size a little bit bigger than a credit card. We got our first question here. Let me go ahead and see what that's about. I just sat there and said we're working on a Raspberry Pi today, Kishan. This is what you're going to be doing in the lab tomorrow. We'll come back to 123D design down the road. Okay, my friend? Does that work for you? All right. This is what you're going to get tomorrow. I hope you're excited about it because this is a really cool computer. Here's what was happening that we got a Raspberry Pi. The Brits, about, I don't know, 6 years ago now, 7, they realized they were having the same problem we were having in the U.S. Nobody was going into programming and computer science, which is really strange because there's so many good jobs there. We're a highly technological society. Why aren't they going into programming? And what they thought and what they realized was you all didn't have opportunities to hack computers. And what I mean by that is ask your parents, when they grew up, they had these Radio Shack, we used to call them Trash 80s, Apple IICs, IBM PCs, Amigas, these little computers that you took apart, you could get your hands on. You all have computers. They're called PS3 and Xboxes. But we even take the bolts on them so you can't take them apart. So nobody, and tablets are nice and everybody's using iPads, but you really can't get in the insides of it. You can't what we call hack it. In the best sense of that word, hack. That is, you learn all about there is to learn about it, you make it do new things. See, hack was taken, and I'll make this real brief, from MIT Railroad Club. And they would take old pieces of electronics, hack them apart, and add them to the railroads. That's where the word hack is. Now, hack became associated with people breaking into banks and taking money. We're not talking about that. We're talking about understanding a system really well and using it for what it was not intended to. So this Raspberry Pi, what's great about this Raspberry Pi is it was so the Brits wanted to get kids into programming, decided, hey, let's get a cheap computer, and we're going to keep it for the price of a book, and they thought that should be $40. They haven't gone to college. A little bit like John breaking, yeah, John. But it hardware-wise, too, hacking. Last night I was in Laser Cutter. I will hack out different things and make things out of it. All right? We made a couch and put it on 2 bicycles so you could pedal a couch. That's the kind of goofy stuff. Is there a point to doing it? No, but is it cool? Yeah. All right. I converted a truck from gas to electric. Do I need to do that? No. But was it fun? Did I learn a lot? Absolutely. The other night I was working on some stuff out at the lab, in our fab lab. I forgot what time it was. I got so into it. So that's what we've got going on here, okay? Now, in this next, so we have that. So the Brits develop it, a $40 computer. You're getting this $40 computer. The idea is we're going to teach you some programming, we're going to teach you some hardware, and then you're going to be able to use it for different things. It's going to be your own computer, you make it do. It's gotten much more powerful. And in fact, what I can show you is this is what one looks like today. Let's duplicate this slide. And now I'm going to show you what, hang on, Raspberry. There it is. This is the old one, here's the new one. So when you go to look at your new one, first of all, you'll see that there's only, these are for connection USB, mouse, keyboard, wireless. It only had one set of these. The new one has two. Here's connecting to Ethernet. You'll use that at your school, Ethernet. Here's HDMI right here, HDMI right there. They also had the old TV sets. That got dropped with the new one. And these pins right here, and there's a longer set of them. These are called general purpose input-output pins. Yes, you're going to end up making a case for it. And you're going to end up making an arcade game with it. All right? So I've sent them the stuff. So it's going to be, I'm very pumped for you guys to see it. All right, now. So we have that. So this is the old one, the new one, old Raspberry Pi. Let me go ahead and insert that. Old Raspberry Pi. Raspberry, should be two R's there. All right. And then we're going to take this whole thing here, Control copy. Take that over here, bear with me. And the new Raspberry Pi. Okay. Right up here, some things you need to know about when you're doing the Raspberry. Yes. You get to keep your Raspberry Pi. You're not making the Raspberry Pi from scratch. That's beyond the level of this class. Okay? All right. Here's things you need to have. You're going to see. You're going to need an SD card. It's a little card that goes into your Raspberry Pi. It's just the same thing. It goes right in here under the slots. This is the power. The SD card goes underneath this one. Pardon me, and it goes underneath over here. You're going to see what an SD card looks like on this. People know what an SD card looks like? I put spaces in the new Raspberry. Thanks for catching that. Yeah, well, okay, one. Thank you. I'll tell you what, so you're going to need an SD card. Oh, well, let's go ahead and give you a copy of what that looks like. You're going to need, I'll show you what an SD card looks like, actually. I wasn't going to really do this, but we're going to go ahead and put that in there. Insert. There we go. We'll search that. Here's the kind of SD card you're using. See these things? You're going to use a micro SD card, one that inserts inside of it. It won't be this big. So we'll get the, let's see, I think it's called micro. Let's see if we can get, whoops. Looks like this. All right. See that little chip inside of it? That's what we want. See this? This is a micro right there. This was the original size. This is what became standard. And now we've gone to this tiny size. You're getting many of those items, yes. Do we bring those things to class tomorrow? Nope. I have an SD card for my drone. Good. Well, there she is. So here's the different size SD cards. You're going to use this small one right there. Okay? So I just want you to see that. You're going to be using this small little dinky one off the back of it. 4 gigs. Then you're going to need to know your connectors. You're going to be using, because they're getting overnighted, these DVI to HDMI, because the monitors at school are DVI. This is HDMI. At home, you're going to give you an HDMI connector, so it goes from here into your TV. All right? So do you understand the difference? This is for school. There's going to be one at school. It's going to DVI and the HDMI of your TV. This is going to go from your back of your Raspberry Pi into your TV. All right. Let's look at these parts one more time as we get through this. Let's go back up here. RCA lead, that was on the old one. You don't use that anymore. You're going to need a keyboard and a mouse. Now, we're not going to provide a keyboard and mouse, but you can find an old keyboard and mouse at your home. Chances are Goodwill, or you can find a used mouse and keyboard somewhere around. Don't pay anything for it. Get a used beater one. Network cable, you're going to need that at school if you're using it. Don't worry. Power adapter, we've sent one to you. You're going to have that with you. And then audio lead, you can just plug your headphones in, your phone headphones. So we have all those things. So what are unique? Again, the little SD card, it's going to come like that, but that's really a holder for this thing. You're going to put that inside your computer. You'll see tomorrow. You're going to HDMI lead. I'm giving you one that you can hook your Raspberry Pi to your TV. That's what we want you to do it, so it saves money. The whole idea of this is to keep it as inexpensive as possible. I'll show you another example of inexpensive computers in a minute. But there's an HDMI to DVI lead. That goes from here to here. And then finally, there's an RCA composite video. All right. And then you boot this in. You get one of these cables, for example. There's micro USB, regular. You can boot it in the back of another computer. You can do etc. All right. Now, we're going to run right through here. Let's troubleshoot some troubleshoots. When you plug your Raspberry Pi in, you turn it on and there's no lights on the board. There's a series of LED lights that will come on. If no lights come in, let me see if I can find a good shot of that right over here. There are lights that come in when you plug this in. There's a series of LEDs right over there. But when you plug it in, you're going to see lights come on. If no lights, here they are. Here are the LEDs. These LEDs, none of them flash on. It means you have no power. Check your power cords. So when you go to troubleshoot this. If you get red and green lights, you're probably, am I not good? Red and green lights, you're probably going to be okay. But if it just stays red and green lights, check your SD cards. You would think it'd be okay, but it's not. If you get red lights, just red lights, it actually means the Raspberry Pi is running. They now went to this red lights and green lights here. I got to put down. That tells you the operating system isn't working when you see this. When there's just red lights, it's working. I think that's counterintuitive. I liked it the old way. The old way it was no lights, red lights, and then you got green lights when it's working. For whatever reason, the batch of Raspberry Pis we've gotten in, it's red and green, and then it goes red when it's working right. I'm not sure why they did it that way, but they did. And you know what? They didn't ask me my opinion on it. All right. Then you're going to get to this Raspberry Pi desktop. Let me just show you what I really want us to jump to. There's all kinds of different, very impressive programs in it. There's a Pi store which you can order things. That's not that impressive. But they have things like Wolfram Alpha. It's a search engine, a very powerful search engine. Comes with Raspberry Pi. All this stuff is free. Of course, free doesn't carry as much weight as it used to. Now everything's free. All right. In there are terminals, and that's where you're going to go to start to write things in there. We use that in a Raspberry Pi. We'll come to that in a minute. Let me go and pull up if I get a better slide for that. There we go. You see, let me see if I can blow this up so you can see this. When you run your Raspberry Pi, a lot of your commands are going to be at a terminal like this, where you're going to be, the user's going to be Pi at Raspberry Pi. So the user's Pi and Raspberry Pi. So here's a really kind of, when you log into your Raspberry Pi, remember this, you're going to log in as Pi. Your password is Raspberry. And remember, there's a P in Raspberry. All right? So that's another thing I want you to get out of this. You also are going to see as you play with it, you have IDLE, that's Python. There's IDLE and IDLE 3, that's Python 2.7 and Python 3. And we'll get into this down the road about Python, but there's actually 2 versions of Python with the Raspberry Pi, which is ridiculous that they have 2 versions. But the people that upgraded Python went from 2.7 to 3. People didn't want to upgrade, so you have a whole two big, huge communities of Python users. Some use 3, some use 2.7. Kind of crazy, I know. All right, so let me show you right here. Yes, I didn't even say that. Do we need to download? Someone said, do we need to download Raspberry Pi? No, it'll be on the SD card you're going to use tomorrow. Someone said about Minecraft. Yes, it is on it. We are going to learn Python by hacking Minecraft. That's what we're going to be learning Python, guys. This is a much more powerful computer than it was originally with the older Raspberry Pi. And you're going to see it as we do Minecraft with it. All right. Now, let me pull up something else for you. You also have Scratch. Okay? So that's something else you do with the Raspberry Pi. It already has Scratch on it. You're going to use this screen right here, and you're going to, when you pull it up tomorrow, it's going to ask you, let me see if I can get to the one I want. Yeah, here's what you're going to do. When you get your computer tomorrow, so let me back up one more time. This is slide 47, so I'll come back to this because I'm jumping around a little bit. You're going to have your Raspberry Pi. It's going to be in a box. You're going to insert an SD card. You're going to connect all this hardware around it. You're going to connect over up the top right-hand corner a mouse and a keyboard. Going to go there and there. You're going to plug into here an HDMI DVI cord. That goes to the monitors in your school. At home, you're going to hook up HDMI to HDMI in your TV. And then once you have all that hooked up, you're going to turn on power. Once you turn on the power, these little LED lights are going to come on. And the way, if it doesn't come on, you don't see a screen come on. No lights, check your power cords. Once you have red lights and green lights, but nothing's happening, check your SD card. Is it pushed all the way in? And then finally, red lights are on, nothing's happening. That means your monitor probably isn't hooked up. Okay, we got a load of questions. I'm going to get here and let me stop right here with the power. So, guys, look at this. No lights, check your power cords when you turn your Raspberry Pi on tomorrow. Red and green lights only, and that's all that stays on the whole time. Check the SD card. Red lights are fine. Check your monitor. Something you have to do on a Raspberry Pi. The monitor has to be turned on before you turn on your Raspberry Pi. Okay? That's really important. It can run, I always like to say, Raspberry Pis are naked because they got no case around them, and they can be headless. And that's because they can run fine without a monitor. Now I've got a load of questions here. Let's answer them. All right, do you need to download Raspberry Pi? No. Does it have Bluetooth? I have a Bluetooth keyboard and I don't know if it'll work. No, you can't use a Bluetooth. Bluetooth doesn't work well on it. Is Minecraft is really well protected? Actually, Minecraft, Keshawn, they have a special version of Minecraft for the Raspberry Pi. All right, Minecraft Pi. And I'm not going to get into it tonight because I don't want you just getting on there to play Minecraft with your Raspberry Pi right off the bat, okay? But I know you're going to want to do it, and we'll show you. We're going to teach a lot with Python with that. Be careful when you say, is hacking illegal? Is changing the code? By the way, you can get the source code for Minecraft. We teach summer camps doing that. What you can't do is give it off to everybody else. In other words, you can't make a new game out of their source code. All right, so they encourage you to do it. Do we need to bring a command? No, you do not need to bring a keyboard for tomorrow's lab. How do you turn it on? Great question, Cooper. You just plug it in. There's no power switch. When you plug it in is how you get it turned on. Okay? A lot of great questions tonight, guys. Very pleased to hear this. So yeah, when you plug it in, it's just going to go on. You're just plugging it in off the power. Now let me go to 47 over here. When you plug it on the very first time, you're going to see this screen. See this right here? This screen here, Raspberry Pi Software Configuration Tool, RaspBeE-config. That's going to come up the very first time. Okay? That's going to come up the very first time. This sounds super cool. Yes, it does. Do we bring anything? No, you really don't. We take care of you. Mr. Maurer and I take care of you in this class. All right, now, once you select that, you go down to 3, enable boot to desktop scratch. Choose whether to boot in a desktop. You're going to say yes. You want this to enable the boot, so it goes right to that screen. Select desktop, login as user Pi in the graphical desktop. You're going to want to do that, all right? So that way when the screen comes up, it'll be all set. And then international options, you're going to actually change the keyboard on this. You can change locale, you can change keyboard layout. I would change keyboard layout, take generic 105 key. He'll show you this tomorrow, don't worry. You may even be using some of the similar slides tomorrow. You don't, again folks, watch what I'm doing here. You don't need to bring anything tomorrow other than what you normally bring. We're providing the Raspberry Pi. We're providing all the stuff, okay? I offer summer camp. When we do this camps, when we do it here in North Carolina, you get your Raspberry Pi and everything with it, okay? Then select Other. So you're going to go to the keyboard. You can select Generic 105. You're going to select Other. You're going to select English US. There's an English British. English British. Their keyboards are slightly different. Okay? No, you will not get to play Minecraft tomorrow, Kishan. You're going to learn how to do this, or right now. Let's pay attention to this, my friend. Will you get to play Minecraft sometime? Yes. And you may even get some tomorrow. But our first thing is let's learn how to use this computer. That's what your parents want you to do. You can play Minecraft at home all the time. What we really want you to do is program Minecraft. That's my goal for you down the road. Okay? Select English or English Macintosh, English Generic, doesn't matter. Then do all of the default settings. This default for the keyboard layout. Select OK. No compose K. Say OK. Control backspace terminal. Say no. Just those are all the defaults. Then you hit finished. And you know, there's some other advanced things that you're really not going to use. You're not going to expand the file well. This desktop, which looks a little bit differently on the monitor one, is called Lxde. And it's just a lightweight extended desktop. It's Linux. This is a Linux computer. Let me stop there with that. You're going to get in these different parts down the road. We'll come back to these when you have a Raspberry Pi to play with. Okay? In the bottom right-hand corner, you will see... Well, we'll get to this when you have your Raspberry Pis. All right, now. All right, so let's talk about any questions on this. And then we're going to go to the next part. So let's go through this again just one more time. Here's the Raspberry Pi you're getting, the new one. This is the old Raspberry Pi. Still useful, and I'm using them in my classroom right now. But these are the more powerful ones. You're going to be able to surf the net and do most things you can do on a computer. Think of this as your second computer now. Okay? That's what you're getting. And just so you know, that's $39. Check this thing out. I'm getting this tomorrow, this week. They've shipped. Here's the world's first $9 computer. It has wireless and Bluetooth. I'm one of these 39,000 backers. And they've shipped. I'm getting it. So the price of computing keeps driving down. All right? I actually ordered several of these things right off the bat. That's the size of a chip. That's the new one. So just think about it. The Raspberry Pi is $39. This one is $9. Isn't that amazing? All right. So just to give you an idea of what's coming down there. Computers are getting to become disposable. Let me say that again. Computers are becoming disposable. This time next year, will either be the Raspberry Pi will get cheaper. We'll be using chips, but all I know is we'll be using computers where you insert a computer into your project and you don't worry about getting your computer back because it didn't cost you that much. Moore's Law says computing power doubles every year and a half, 2 years. That has resulted in smaller, faster, cheaper computers. At that rate, with Moore's Law, you could conceivably imagine a time when there's, well, now we're talking $9 computers, getting them down to $4.50, $5. Isn't that, to me, amazing? Getting them almost free. Get in the cereal box. Okay, so you have that. This is the second one. Just one last time. I know I'm running this in the ground, but this is to help you tomorrow. You're going to use this small SD card we're providing. It comes in the box with your Raspberry Pi. You're going to hook up HDMI to DVI at the lab at school. You're not going to use a RCA composite anymore. You are going to hook up an HDMI to HDMI at home. So at home, you're going to need to run your Raspberry Pi on a TV or an old DVI monitor. We aren't supplying that. Here it is, your Raspberry Pi 2. You can look it up what a Raspberry Pi 2 is. This is going to be where you hook your HDMI in. This is where you put your headset in. Ethernet. And here are for hooking up your USB. Your mouse and your keyboard's over here. These GPIO pins, of which what I'm really excited about, are right over here. So they're right here, right along here. All right. Okay, we have that. We talked about the lights. I mean, at this point, really, do we really need to go through it 15 times? But if it doesn't come on, you don't see a desktop screen, you don't see this, when you turn yours on, if this doesn't come up, Raspberry Pi configuration tool, if that doesn't come up the first time, check out these three things. No lights, check your power. Red light, green lights, check your SD card. Red lights only, hey, the monitor's run. You check your monitor. Make sure when you hook this up at home, you have your monitor on your TV. 47. This is going to start up. You're going to go enable boot to desktop. There it is. Select that. This screen will come up. Log in as user Pi as a graphical desktop. That's what you want. And then you'll end up doing some international options where we set the keyboards. I'm sure Mr. Meyer will walk you through that. Okay? Does that make sense, everybody? If Apple made a microcomputer, they'd probably charge like 10 grand. That's funny. Yeah, I don't see them making one. Can we hook it up to a laptop? No, good question, but no. You can hook it up to a laptop. Let me restate that. You can't use the laptop's display per se, but we will show you how to SH in and do some other things. All right? And again, this is through the keyboard. You select one, you select generic keyboard. Then you make sure you do English. When it has the English UK, do other and select English US. And then you're good to go. And this is English, all the different versions of English. That's a Mac. And then go through, once you've selected your keyboard, do all the defaults. This one, etc. All right. Now, let me see, we got the keyboard. All right, here's the next thing I want to do. So we have that. Remember, that's the $9 one coming down the pike. So 2 years from now, that's probably what we'll be teaching you about. All right, now the next one I want to take you to, and I had to take this all down when I started the webinar. All right, let's go first place. Before I go there, let's do this. It's RaspberryPi.org. If you want to learn a lot about your Raspberry Pi, here it is. You can go right here. So, for example, let's see, we'll pull this a minute 43. We'll go ahead and fire this bad boy up. I'll turn the volume up. And I'm going to drop this in. And again, this is a UK, United Kingdom, Great Britain, their computer. I'm sending this to all. I'll blow this up and we'll play this.
This is a Raspberry Pi. It's a credit card-sized computer that costs around £25, designed to teach young people to program, and is capable of doing all kinds of wonderful things. Back in the 80s, kids had to learn how to code computers to use them, and as a result, these kids grew up with an inbuilt understanding of how computers work. Now, we need more programmers than ever before. So to deal with this problem, some clever people came up with the Raspberry Pi to reignite the spark. It runs Linux, a free operating system from an SD card,
it's operating system,
just like the one in your digital camera, and it's powered by a USB phone charger. You just plug in a mouse and a keyboard, connect it to a TV or monitor, and you're ready to go. In schools, not only is Raspberry Pi a great way to learn programming skills as part of ICT, there are also dozens of cross-curricular applications, like science and music. And all over the world, people are experimenting with Raspberry Pis and attending Raspberry Jam events, where people of all ages are learning what can be done with a Raspberry Pi. Since the first Raspberry Pi was shipped, we've seen examples of people using the Pi in a variety of amazing and interesting projects, taking advantage of its size, portability, cost, programmability, and connectability. So whether you want to learn to make games, build robots, or even teach a bird to parachute, with Raspberry Pi, the sky's the limit.
Okay, don't you love that British accent, or they would say, or American accent? Okay, setting up your Raspberry Pi. Let's just take a look at this.
So you've got your first Raspberry Pi, you lucky thing. But now what? Well, fear not, adventurers. I'm here to explain all. The Raspberry Pi is a tiny computer that has the ability to do loads of wonderful things. So, let's take a closer look. You probably want to use a mouse or a keyboard. That's what these USB ports are for. Oh, wait! There's also an HDMI port for a display. You can use a monitor or even your family TV.
We're planning on you using your TV. Don't go out and buy a monitor.
Ethernet port, so you can connect to the internet. Your Raspberry Pi even has a connector for a special camera module. It can hook up to lots of other devices if you use a USB hub too. So now we've had a look around the Raspberry Pi, let's get set up. First, you're going to need a screen. This can be connected with an HDMI or analog cable depending on the kind of display you're using. Next, a USB mouse and keyboard. A micro USB power supply, like one you'd use to charge your mobile phone, and an Ethernet cable to get online. The operating system runs from a micro SD card, just like the one in your digital camera. You can download your operating system for free from the Raspberry Pi website. If you want to get started even quicker, you can buy a noob's card which comes preloaded with a choice of operating system for everyone, from beginners to experts. And there you have it. Your shiny new Raspberry Pi is ready for you to boot up and start doing fantastic things. Build an arcade machine. Make a robot. Create music. Fly a drone. Or send your Pi into space. So what are you waiting for? Go on. Make your Raspberry Pi do something truly amazing.
Folks, all those things they're talking about, I've seen them do it. If you want to use an extra monitor, use that. You don't have to use your TV. If you've got an extra monitor, I'm just trying to avoid buying things, okay? Honestly, I have seen... Let's go. I have seen all these things they're talking about with the Raspberry Pi. And then, you know, you have Let's Get Physical, how you can... What this does is we can learn with it. Let's look at these last output things here before we go.
Hello.
Hi.
I see you got your hands on a Raspberry Pi.
Uh-huh.
You know there are tons of physical computing projects you can do with a Raspberry Pi, don't you?
Kinda.
Okay, lose the screen. Let's get physical! Look, there's Grandpa. Why don't we wake him up with a Grandpa scare?
Yeah.
Nice,
First,
picking on
take your
Grandpa.
Raspberry Pi and plug in your buzzer and lights. Next, place the toy spider box above Grandpa's chair and write your code. Finally, attach a comedy red button and we're ready to go. Do it!
That was fun. What else can we do?
Let me think. Do you have a pet hamster?
Yeah, Mr. Snicky.
Well, how about a hamster disco?
Yeah.
Make a tinfoil pressure sensor, slip it under Mr. Snicky sawdust, and write your code. Next, add some disco lights and a glitter ball. When the hamster treads on the foil, it's party time! Well, that was novel. Okay, how about we make Mum a nice cup of tea?
No.
Okay, well, how about we make her a cup of tea and then build a robo-butler to take it to her?
Yeah.
There are lots of kits that will turn your Raspberry Pi into the brains for a robot. Stick your Pi inside a robot body, write your code, and attach a games controller. Add your tea tray, and away we go!
What should we do next?
Oh, what was that?
That's Dad's bum. He's always jumping.
I think we need to get a fart detector on the case.
It's a dangerous job, but someone's got to do it.
Grab a methane sensor and attach it to your Pi. Write your code and do some testing if you absolutely must. We're ready. Evacuate. So, have you had fun learning about physical computing with the Raspberry Pi?
Yeah.
The possibilities are limitless. You can check out the resources section of the Raspberry Pi website for details on making all these projects and loads more, like a parent detector, reaction games, and a screaming jelly baby. Okay, it's time for me to go. Have fun and keep on computing. Ah, to be young again.
All right, so that gives you a sense of different things you can start it with noobs, all these different, here's the tutorial with noobs. We're not going to keep watching these. You'll see them tomorrow, but
The SD card into your SD card with some information. If you are new to using Linux,
you won't even have to use that right now, but there is that for you. All right. Now, let me get to the next thing of cool things you can do with this Raspberry Pi. That's why you should be all very psyched. Okay? I moved in just to hear the accents. I agree. It makes me think of Harry Potter all the time when I ever that. All right, here we go. If you go to Adafruit Learning, all right, here you go. Now, one thing you should understand, it's coming Halloween. There's lots of things we can do in the world of physical computing. Physical computing says we take a computer, we hook sensors to it, and we do things we go outside the computer. We physically change things. It's also known as embedded computer, where you put the computer in what you're building. All right? So let's do Raspberry Pi, and we can look at all these learned things. But look at these skull eye things. Look at that. Isn't that creepy? I love it. So anyways, let's go over here. Raspberry Pi. This is called Adafruit. Well, that didn't give us what we wanted. Let's go learn. And here we go. Here's all the different things you can start learning. Now, it gets amazingly complicated, but like, look at this. This is a little tiny laptop notebook using a 3D printer and a Raspberry Pi. All right. So that's a little mini handheld Raspberry Pi. Use a 3D printer to put it up. And it's pretty sweet. I'm not going to kid you. That's kind of neat. Then you have, let's see here. Let's go through. If you go down here, you're going to see they have lots and lots of lessons on here on this. Let me go through the next one of these. Here's the security system. Sensing movement. One of my students made this with this other one right here, and she could tell whenever my her little sister was breaking into her room. Okay, so to me that was pretty darn cool. Let me see. I want to see more guides. Where's the rest of the guides in this thing? Yeah, there's 16 guides, 104 pages. Let's go through that. Here's capacitive touch, so you can put a touch display. Here's Pocket. Remember these video games? You can make that out of a Raspberry Pi. How neat is that? You can actually make that robot too, but all right. Here's some of the other things. Here's MATLAB with Raspberry Pi, which you guys haven't done a lot of. What I don't understand now, they've changed. I swear every time I go on their site, they change. Okay, here we go. Sensors, projects. Let's try Raspberry Pi. Let's see if we can get. They've got these little tab things here. It doesn't tell me as much as I would like. Another Raspberry Pi desktop you can make on your own. Portable monitor for your Raspberry Pi. And there's more in this. Oh, here's the next. This is where Mr. Dubik wasn't seeing. Let's see some of the different things you can do. Raspberry Pi, Minecraft blocks. You can communicate with that. Sega Game Gear running with a Raspberry Pi. Let's go here to something else. No, come on. You can make a little old school It looks like... That's not really what I wanted here. This thing is what I wanted. See that 3D? It looks like a little Mac Mini. Like original Mac computer that came out. The old Mac styles. They can do that. NeoPixels. You can turn on lights. Wearable video glasses. On with this. Face recognition treasure box. You can literally make a treasure box that when it sees your face, it'll open up. Otherwise, it won't. Check this one out. Check this.
This is the creepy face tracking portrait. You're looking at an LCD monitor with just a nice frame around it, and it's hooked up to a Raspberry Pi Model B. That's the 512 megabyte memory version with the Pi camera, and you can see there's a skull that's being rendered, and if you look in the upper left hand corner, you can see that's my face right there, and that's video from the Pi camera with face detection running through OpenCV. And as I move around, we should be able to see if it grabs my face that the skull, it's turning to follow me. So I move around a little bit.
Look at that.
So you can see
the skull's turning that way.
You can see the video from the camera. It's detecting faces every 2 seconds. It takes about 800 milliseconds or so for the face detection to run. So it's...
Let's see if it shows a better view of that. If you turn his head around...
This is a creepy portrait running on my PC. It's using a little bit nicer webcam that has much wider field of view. And you can see that it's basically perfectly real time. So as I move around...
See how the skull moves in the portrait?
Skull follows me everywhere.
You can do that with a pumpkin. You can do that. So you have that. Let's see what you all are saying. I'm not looking at questions here, and I got it. Yeah, could you make a Raspberry Pi sound like email, text message, phone? Absolutely. You can make it so it sets off a sound every time you get an email, like in music. You could have whoever running Minecraft on Raspberry Pi. You all know you want that. You can do it. A Raspberry Pi controlled laser controller. Drive your cat crazy or have your cat have fun. Raspberry Pi Media Center. Let me see some of the other things here. All right. There are endless things. This light painting was done with the Raspberry Pi. So you draw that. That's digital light, but it looks like it's like this. Looks like there's fire there, but it's really just digital lights. And look at this. I can also show you here. Go back to RaspberryPi.org. Here we go. If you go here, here's some of the makes you can do. Magic 8-ball, whack-a-mole game, temperature log, a reaction game, gas detector, fart detector, hamster, all the things you just saw in that one earlier video was right there. I wanted to make sure and tell you, they show you how to do this. And like you can just do this sometimes, do Instructables. Here's another place to go, Raspberry Pi. These are all Raspberry Pi projects. A web-controlled tank with Canon and live video. Tweeting hamster cage. A drone Pi drone. A low-cost sound recording unit. Antique radio with a Raspberry Pi inside of it. I like that industrial Pi case. That looks like a beast. catch a mouse with a Raspberry Pi. Some of these things I'm not sure why the point of it, but hey, that's okay. So those are just some of the things people are hacking with the Raspberry Pi. They've launched Raspberry Pis with, and you know what? We're missing on the Adafruit. Here it is. There's this Raspberry Pi. Look at all the different video games they've done. Look at this one. Arcade cabinet on this. Now, this is probably a little bit more than we can do, but it's pretty cool. Yeah. That cabinet, they want 119 just for that, which seems a little bit ridiculous to me. I'm looking at playing with these other buttons to see to drive that down. But isn't that amazing? There it is right there. So, folks, all right, could you put the link up? What link? For what? These different things? Yes, I'll do them right now. I'm going to give you, here's Instructables. Here is Raspberry Pi projects on, you guys might want to save all these. I'm sending them to everyone. And let me see, where's the Adafruit Learning System stuff? There you go. I just put them up there. I put the link up for everybody. I want to make a Game Boy. Yeah, can you put the link up? I did. I mean, I like someone in Energy Room. It could send you an email. Absolutely. That's a great idea, John. Can you make a toaster? Yes. You can have a camera. You can take video with it. Yeah, I was wondering if I could sneak anything. I just put the links up for everybody. So I hope you're all very excited about tomorrow, getting your Raspberry Pis. I hope we create lots of things. I'm pumped. I hope you're pumped too. And I hope you have a great night tonight, all right, and a great time tomorrow. All right, everybody? I'm going to go ahead and jump off now. I'm going to record this, post it, okay?